Tonight, we're focusing on the top dogs in the Classic City. That's right, the Georgia Bulldogs. We'll have all the latest updates and some spotlight stories that you're not going to want to miss in this edition of Sports Source. Welcome to Sports Source. My name is Matthew Brown, and I'll be your host for today's show. We'll preview some of the upcoming key SEC matchups for spring sports, break down the recent success of UJ's baseball team, and preview what the recent coaching changes may mean for the future of Georgia basketball. But before we get started, if you're in the Athens area for the next few weeks, have your game day outfit laid out and ready and put these games on your schedule. You just heard about an athlete finding success after moving from Florida to Georgia, and lots of Bulldog fans are hoping to see Mike White do the exact same. He spent 11 seasons at Florida as a Gators head basketball coach, but White isn't the only one getting a new office at Stegman. Katie Abrahamson Henderson was named the women's head coach just weeks after White. So let's just say there's been a lot of action happening in Georgia basketball. That was entertaining. Catherine and Sarah, you really did put them on the spot. But now it's my turn to put you on the spot. But before we get started with our rapid fire segment, let me break down the rules for our viewers. Since we're talking hoops, we'll have my version of the shot clock where you two will have an opportunity to answer a question before the timer runs out. But when you're done or when the buzzer sounds, whichever comes first, the other person will go. Sounds good?
Yeah. Let's do it.
Okay, Catherine, I'm going to start with you. What is the word on Mike White crossing the enemy lines from Florida to Georgia?
Georgia needs someone who is excited to be here, and that's exactly what they're getting in Coach White.
Well, let's just hope next basketball season fans will be excited. So, Sarah, this one is for you. When the announcement was released that Joni Taylor would be Texas A&M's new head coach, Twitter started buzzing. What was the talk of the town for women's basketball?
So she was out of the conversation pretty quickly, but at least she was able to have a good laugh about it.
Yep, you cut it close that time, Sarah. But, Catherine, I'm going to toss it to you. White isn't leaving Florida alone. Is Georgia going to be ready to see him bring some assistant coaches from Florida to Athens to help build himself a team?
Yeah.
Now, that is a tough question. Coach Johnson said the biggest weakness of this year's Clark Central team is lack of depth. So, expect the Lady Glass to share the ball when it comes to scoring, but some players to watch will be senior shooting guard Micaiah Pittard and junior small forward Ayanna London. Now, Taylor, Clark Central will be without one of their best ball handlers, Autumn Wallace, who suffered an injury last December. But the shining star of this team is Deshauna Foote, and she is also the team's assist leader. Coach Howell even said Foote is one of the most insane passers that she's ever seen play, so look and expect for her to make an impact. Ever since its birth, the game of soccer has always been played on natural grass. But in recent years, popularity has grown for another material, artificial turf, and is becoming a new trend. But for some schools, it was merely just a business decision.
2019 was the last year we played on natural grass. Really the motivation behind the putting in the turf field was that we're a landlocked school. We also have a strong boys and a strong girls soccer program. So the field was continually used. It was unable to keep up. I mean, ours is more out of necessity. I mean, if we had just a standalone field that we never got on and we only played our soccer games and our football games on it, I would prefer natural grass, but that's not our situation.
Clark Central isn't the only school to hop on the new trend. 3 of the 7 Athens area schools have invested in a turf field, with the exception of North Oconee, whose soccer team only uses it in inclement weather. Unlike other schools, switching to an artificial field was never a question. Cedar Shoals High School has the luxury of having 3 practice fields to keep their main field in peak condition.
Yeah, they definitely do not want this field to be turned into an Astro field turf. They are not pumped when we get off the bus and we see it's turf field either. They would much rather have all their games on regular grass. I think that would make them feel a little bit more comfortable.
In a 2019 survey done by the Georgia High School Football Daily, more than half of the athletic programs registered to the Georgia High School Association reported that their team sports will play their home games on artificial fields.
So there's a lot of forgiveness on this field, a lot of divots, a lot of ways the ball can die. It can be beneficial if you practice on real grass all the time. It can be detrimental when you go and you play on artificial grass and you're not used to it. There's absolutely no forgiveness in an artificial field. The bottom of it is concrete, so that's still, every time the ball bounces, it bounces harder. Every time it slides faster.
And regardless as to what surface your favorite team is playing on, experts say that either field can prove to be unforgiving and cause injury.
So if you look at some of the literature that's coming out about injuries in the NFL, non-contact ACLs look like, they happen more often on synthetic turf. But if you look at soccer, on that same type of field and that same level of athlete at the say MLS level, there's not a lot of difference between the teams that are playing on grass and the teams that are playing on synthetic surfaces.
Dr. Ray even says more research needs to happen before a definitive conclusion can be given. He says it's the quality of the playing surface that ultimately determines the safety of the game. With the soccer season already underway, you can expect several teams to break new ground. Whether it's fresh sod or AstroTurf, you will stay at the same stadium to watch your team play their best. This is Matthew Brown, Carmical Sports Media Institute at UGA.